This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going on a cruise ship and we're gonna go have some fun on this big ship. But while we're on this ship, someone unfortunately has been murdered, stabbed. So today we're trying to figure out who has the perfect alibi. This is for 3 to 5 players. It's a deduction game. Let me show you it's played. I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning of Perfect Alibi, everybody gets to pick a color and place it in front of them so everybody knows who is who. Now here's the board. You're going to be trying to find the murder through deduction, and it's a grid of 4x4, so there's 16 cards in the game. In this case, if we're playing with 5 players, every player will get 3 cards. Now there's different things. There's time, so there's 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then there are parts of the ship. We have the library, the dining room, the sun deck, and the bar, and each of those correspond with a certain person as well. The solution, these 16 cards are going to get shuffled, and one of them is secretly going to be put under the board. That is the solution to the game. Everybody else is going to get anywhere between 3 and 5 cards, depending if you're playing with 3 to 5 players. Now each player will get one of these nice color sheets to put in front of them, but the game doesn't come with its own shields to block this, so you'll have to find boxes or whatever to block this. Then you secretly look at the cards that were drawn to you and mark off that you have those. So for example, I have Rita. She's at 6 o'clock in the dining room. 6 o'clock dining room. This is Rita. I know that this one, it can't be it because there's only one of each color. Murphy at 3 at the bar. And we have Rita again at 9 o'clock at the sun deck. And we know those 3 are there. I would make sure these are face down so nobody else could see them. Then depending on who's the starting player, there's a drafting method where people will draft which characters they start with, but these will move around throughout the game. I'll tell you more about what these cards do. Essentially, they give you a special ability while they're in front of you. When it's your turn, you will look at the 4 tiles that are face up. There's always 4 tiles, and they are different colors. If you remember, people took different colors at the beginning of the game. What this means is that I could ask green a question about time, or purple about location, orange about time, or pink about location. We'll get to what this extra arrows mean later, but let's say I want to ask the green a question. I would take this, and I would say, green player, tell me, and you can ask them a few different ways. You could say, how many cards do you have at 3 o'clock? Or you could say, how many cards do you have at 3 and 9 o'clock? Maybe you say, how many cards do you have at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock all together? So let's say I asked about 3 and 9 o'clock to the green player, and let's say they say, I have 2 of those. Everyone would write that down. Now, if the answer is 1 or less, nothing happens. They just say 1 or 0. If the answer is 2, they still yell it out. Every answer gets spoken out loud so everybody can hear it. But if it's 2 or more, this green player has to show you one of these cards, but they can show you the same card they showed you earlier, so you got to be creative in your questions. So in this case, let's say the player showed me this one right here, because it was 3 o'clock and I could mark that off, and I'd probably mark off that it was green's card, so I don't want to see that one again. And then it would be the next player's turn, and the next choice comes out. You could choose one of these 4 things. So that's how it goes around. Keep going around like that until you find out who it is, but let me go over what the characters do. If you have the journalist in front of you, it doesn't matter what colors are out there to choose from. You can ask anybody anything that you want about time or location and any color. She kind of is like an all the time wild. This person, the priest, you see the little sign language here. When this player gets a clue and they ask for something, they don't say, the answer does not come out loud. Everyone closes their eyes, and this player just shows numbers of how many they have. So only this player gets to know how many they are. The cook here is really interesting, that when someone's going to show you an answer to a question, meaning it was 2 or more, that player has to shuffle all their cards, even the ones that weren't about that clue, and this player gets to draw one of them. So sometimes they can find out information randomly about things that they didn't even ask for. The captain is pretty cool. The captain itself, when somebody else gets to see a card, this player gets to see it too. And then finally the psychiatrist, he's locked up. Nobody can see his card, so even if he says 2 or more, he doesn't show them their cards. Now, when you select one of these cards that has an arrow, you first will swap out your person. If it's a 5-player game, then you will just swap people with the pink person because there's only 5 characters. If you play with less than 5, there'll be some unused characters by the board, and when you swap yours, you can swap it with an empty one from the board or with a pink character, and it's a way to move characters around and get different special abilities. Now, at some point, you might think you have gotten close, and you might be like one question away. Maybe you have it narrowed down to 2 people. You can ask any wild question to any person, but then after that you must make a final accusation. Otherwise, you can make a final accusation on any time, regardless of whose turn it is. You don't say what it is. You would just say, you would circle the one that you think is the right one. You'd look under the board for that card, which sometimes sticks to the bottom of the board, and you would see if you're right. If you're right, you show it and you win. If you're wrong, you just say you're wrong. You're out of the game, but you still have to answer questions. First one to get it right wins. If everybody gets it wrong, the last person that did not get removed by guessing wrong is the winner. When I first heard of this game, I was extremely excited. Number one, because it was designed by the same person who did Escape the Curse of the Temple, one of my most fun family, dice rolling cooperative games. And when I looked at the rule book and I read through it, this was like back last October, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like Sleuth with special abilities. Sleuth is my #1 favorite deduction game, and it's one of my top 10 games of all time. It's absolutely amazing, designed by Sid Saxon, but came out back in like 1973. Now, or maybe 71. Now this game seems and feels the same, a lot of the same rules, and it is very, very similar, but there are quite a bit of differences in those special abilities, and the way you pick people is the big difference here. Now, there's a lot less cards in this game. There's only 16 cards, where there's like 38 or 30 something in Sleuth. But the difference here is that if you're asking a question, they have 2 or more, they're showing you a card, but they get to show you which one card they show you, or in Sleuth, you get to see them all. And that's probably balanced because there's so many cards there and not enough here. This game felt tighter than Sleuth. It felt harder than Sleuth because of that, I'd say. There's a gamer element that's put on here where you're trying to use the special ability that you want, and then you're trying to maybe pick the character so you can swap the special ability with those guys, and sometimes you can get those special abilities messed up. I typically prefer my logic and deduction games to be pure logic and pure deduction and nothing else. Now this game is pretty close to that, but it does add that layer of special abilities, which does add a different layer of things going on, which I thought would absolutely make this game amazing. For me, it pulled me out of the what I love most, which is the logic. For others that like things around their deduction, they're probably going to like this maybe even better. So I played with players that loved it. I played with players that are like me and just want it. So for me, I think it's a solid game. It's a solid logic and deduction game. It's taken the baseline of Sleuth and changed it, and I like seeing it when people take things that work and tweak it a little bit, add things, and so it's a good effort. And I think it's a solid deduction game. Personally, I like it cleaner. I like less other stuff going on. I thought I would like this one maybe as much as Sleuth, but hey, that's the king of the road for me. So if you're looking for a logic deduction game that you don't mind other things going around, if you like special abilities and keeping track of all that stuff amongst the heavier deduction, then this is definitely one to check out, and that's Perfect Alibi. This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.